Yo, what is going on, guys? It's Sauceman K. You can tell by the thumbnail and the title. Today we're going to be talking about adult Yuji being a bit of a fraud. I have a big yap session here for you guys, but the recording got a bit messed up, at the start. So it's gonna jump in maybe like 3 or 4 minutes into the actual recording, but we're just gonna be talking about Yuji compared to Gojo, Sukuna, Kashimo, the other top tiers. And just kind of explaining why he doesn't really have any concrete feats and why Modulo kind of failed him. Like everybody was waiting on Yuji to demonstrate some insane feats, and Modulo kind of just showed up, gave him nothing, and it seems like it's going on its way. So I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you guys in the next one. So there's nothing here that means anything. This is interesting, right? It's like, oh, this is cool, manipulation, blood manipulation, whatever. But like, how does this compare to Gojo? Let's flash over to JJK real quick. Oops. Whoa. Look at this skip. Are we kidding me? What's happening right there? Oh my god. These sites are terrible. Okay. So, let's go back to JJK. This is the 200% hollow purple. A lot of people are familiar with this. Okay. So, Sukuna, right? He puts his hands out, smacked of 200% hollow purple. He loses 2 arms. Okay, and it's stated that because of the barrier that this guy, Ichi or whatever, put up, Sukuna was unable to tell, that there was a massive output of cursed energy approaching until the last moment. Right? That's what it says. So that's why he ends up getting smacked with 2, losing 2 arms. But loses 2 arms. You guys see that? What do you think does more damage? 200% hollow purple from Gojo, or this attack? What do you think does more damage? 200% hollow purple, or this attack where he grabs the axe, or this attack where he hits a black flash, or what do you think does more damage, guys? What do you think? What do you think does more damage? 200% hollow purple, right? Or this? Now, I've seen a lot of people talk about this. I've seen a lot of people hype this up. And me and my friend, when we were first reading the leaks of this chapter a few weeks ago, we saw this and we got super hyped because this is a very big explosion, right? Boom! You see, boom! Big kanji. Look at the big explosion. And this isn't just like, oh, like it's 2 like small little, like, no, these are buildings. This is like the port or whatever, right? These are buildings, right? You can see the curvature of the earth. These are massive explosions, okay? But what does it really mean? Okay, because if you guys noticed, and I guess you can see the slash up here, which, hold on. Let's put a pin in what I was just going to say real quick. So these do look a bit similar. These slashes do look relatively similar, okay? Right? I don't see anything super different there. Although maybe this one's like fully, but I mean it has the super black outline. This one's the super, I don't see a major difference. So the point that I was making before this was going to say that there's nothing that Yuji really demonstrates that's as potent or worthwhile or meaningful or whatever as the world slash that Sukuna does, or the hollow purple that Gojo fires. But on second thought, if you wanted to just assume that this is a world slash, you could say so, right? You could say so, possibly, right? If you wanted to just assume so. But my point here is that we're never really gonna know, right? So I'll get back into my scaling, okay? Because there's things in argumentation where you can make assumptions, right, on things that aren't clear or aren't, sure. But it's also just stronger argumentation to make claims on things that you do know, things that you can prove. So that's what I'm gonna focus on in this video. But it is interesting to know how, you could just say, oh, these look the same, right? You could say that these look the same, therefore they're the same attack, but ultimately we're never going to find out because Yuji is saying bye, going off and doing his own thing, and it seems like the manga is going to wrap up here with a fairy tale ending. So, but yeah, let's get back into the scaling that I was going to present, which is that Yuji, right, these explosions that he demonstrates are very big deals, right, but they don't really mean that much in terms of potency, right? For example, right, Sukuna cuts the world. Not just like the world is in like the dirt or the ground. The world is in dimensionality. The world is in space-time, right? Gojo's entire thing, his entire idea behind being strong is that he has this barrier that is comprised of him manipulating space, right? The concepts of motion and space to an infinite degree, right? And he does this and creates an infinite barrier that you can never pass, right? Whatever, right? Everybody understands that. And Sukuna just cuts the world that ability exists inside of. That's like how it's described. I guess I can just literally pull it up for you. It was 2 chapters ago. I don't know if anybody has never read this before, but nope. With regard for your for your invariability, as long as it exists inside of space, that world, those existences would all split apart, right? Whatever, right? So basically, just as long as the ability, the curse technique, the barrier, as long as it exists inside of the space, right, it can be cut, and that's basically what Sukuna does here, right? So that attack, which, I mean, as we can see, there is no massive explosion, there is no big anything, it's just a straight durability negating slash. Extremely potent, extremely efficient, extremely, concise. There's not much to it. Compare that to what's happening here. Now, like I just said previously, if you assume that this slash is the same as the world slash, then you might have something to work with, but it's just it's just not stated, and there's no implication to say as much. And the only reason that Sukuna was able to even use this technique was because he literally had a model from Maharaga, right, specifically stated to do everything from. I mean, unless Yuji was just rewatching the VOD of like the fight over and over again and memorizing it's just not possible, right? Like at the point I'm making, like the point with that VOD statement was to say it's completely ridiculous and preposterous and unfounded to assume that Yuji could replicate what Sukuna did with the world slash, right? It's just not. You just can't make the claim. It's not stated anywhere in the material, and the lengths that Yuji would have to go to in order to replicate it without using Maharaga. It's like, dude, like I can't even describe it. I don't think it would be possible, right? So it's like Sukuna's over here with the world slash, Gojo's over here with the hollow purple. Flash forward, I guess we'll go to chapter 237 to talk about Kashimo. Kashimo's whole thing is being able to attack and move at light speed, right? Or I guess I'll say react and attack at light speed, just because I don't think we ever specifically see him, run across the world or anything, but the whole point, right, is that it's specifically stated, right, electromagnetic waves. He attacks with electromagnetic waves, right? That's what he's doing here, right? He shoots a blast of electromagnetic wave at Sukuna, big EM wave. EM waves are light speed, right? Just look it up, I don't really care. There's like a slight, like 0.1, 0.2% difference in how fast they move inside of a vacuum. So if you were to shoot an EM wave in space versus an EM wave inside of Earth's vacuum where it encounters air, there's a very minuscule difference, but I don't really care because it's not just like Kashimo spawning a literal EM wave from the universe. He's creating the phenomena of an EM wave, and it's being boosted by his cursed energy output, right? So if anything, it's significantly faster than just a normal EM wave that you would encounter in space, right? It's just, you can easily intuit that, you can easily assume that. It's just like how, like, for example, in Bleach, when a character like, let's say, Lily Barrow uses a light attack, it's not just literally the speed of light, it's also being increased by his own energy output, his own reishi or Quincy ability or whatever, right? It's the same concept for Kashimo. So he's able to materialize and utilize these phenomena, right, of electromagnetic waves and all these other things, right? It literally says manifest phenomena, but he's also able to boost it with his own energy output, which is why they're able to do such incredible things, right? Like if you just shot an EM wave at somebody, right, just like a light ray or something, like it wouldn't explode their fucking body, right? But that's what happens when Kashimo uses them. But the point here is just to establish him as baseline being light speed, because that's how fast EM waves are. right? And we see that Sukuna, while half dead after fighting Gojo, is able to dodge this, right? Easily displaying Sukuna as being many times above light speed. Just, I mean, if you listen to anything that I just said, right, you'd understand that, right? Just baseline, assuming that this EM wave that Kashimo is utilizing, if we just assume it's just exactly the same as a normal one you'd find in the world, then it is light speed. And if you listen to what I said earlier about how it's not just a normal one and how it's actually an EM wave that he is manipulating with his own cursed energy output, then you'd understand that it's significantly above light speed, right? So Sukuna being able to dodge this while half dead just means that while half dead, he's significantly above light speed, right? And then I just spent a lot of time earlier talking about their attacks, right? So Gojo, Sukuna, right? They both have the Hollow Purple and the World Slash. Those attacks are both significantly more potent than anything that Yuji has displayed in Modulo. I just spent some time describing even while half dead, Sukuna is way above light speed, which, not to directly scale this guy to Yuji, but, sorry, I just almost called him Modulo. Deborah, his whole thing for being impressive is being able to move at sub-light speed, right? So he's not quite the speed of light, right? I'll push my body's strength and speed to their absolute limits, beyond the limits of mankind. Deborah rips across the battlefield at sub-light speed. And this wording right here is pretty interesting. It's pretty funny, because I had an Instagram comment, which I have an Instagram comment section pulled up we're going to talk about in a bit, but I had an Instagram comment mention to me that Deborah's technique, it allows him to go beyond the limits of mankind, but if you look at the Kashimo statement as well, it says the same thing for him. Now this wording is a little bit different. You might say, ooh, the human realm versus the limits of mankind. It depends on what site you look at. I've seen 3 or 4 different translations for this chapter, right? 237 I've noticed has like a bunch of different translations. I don't know what was going on in the studio when this is being written, but there's a lot of different translations for this chapter specifically. But this human realm, right, the limits of mankind, right, it all means the same thing. I saw another translation for this chapter where it said that Kashimo's body had further surpassed the limits of mankind, basically meaning that base Kashimo was already above the limits of mankind, and he activates his curse technique and goes further beyond the limits of mankind, right? The point I'm making is that it's just funny how people seemingly, right, new material comes out and then they just seemingly forget the old material, right? New material comes out and they see, oh, beyond the limits of mankind, that was sub-light speed, and they seemingly all forget how Kashimo had already established that level of speed previously, and he's significantly above that level, because he's not just sub-light speed, he is light speed. And given the arguments that I gave earlier, he's not just light speed, he's significantly above light speed. And so is Sukuna, which, I mean, we'll click a few oh god, look at this, look at who it is. We'll click a few pages, right? Because this former Kashimo, the attack, I don't care if you want to say that this is, many times above light speed or not, the EM wave, if you want to accept the fact that he's increasing the speed and the potency of the attack of his output or not, that doesn't matter, right? I think it's just unobjective. You can't really take objection to that. It's just pretty, set in stone that he's increasing the speed and attack potency of the attack with his output. But even if you don't want to accept that and just assume that this attack is only 1 times light speed, Sukuna still dodges it effortlessly while half dead, which means that he himself is still many times above light speed. Then he goes into the full body form, which, I mean, if you look at the body, I mean, I've spent so much time arguing online with people about this, but look at the frail Megami body, see how weak and skinny it is? Look at the Chad 4-armed adult body that's perfectly healed and in full condition, full stamina. This body that Sukuna uses is just a direct upgrade in stats compared to the previous one. There's just no comparison, right? It's literally Megami's 16-year-old high schooler body versus a literal perfect, divine, I'll just let Kashimo describe it, because Kashimo, right, using X-ray to analyze Riem and Sukuna, what he saw was perfection. Sukuna goes from fighting inside of a 16-year-old high schooler, to literally embodying perfection, right? So if he was already dodging a light speed attack while in this fucking dead high schooler body, what do you think happens when he obtains perfection? Like, people really need to start reading the words in their manga, bro. Like, it's not rocket science. You just need basic language. Language comprehension is all you need, okay? So, I've spent time talking about why Yuji has no attack that compares to anything we've seen in JJK, right? I'm talking about speed currently, right? So I established how Sukuna is above light speed in this weakened Megami body. Then he obtains the what just happened? I went back in the chapters. What? He obtains perfection. He obtains the perfect body, and then, right? I guess I can read all this out, right? You know, performing gestures and hand signs, right? He remains undeterred, right? Because his lungs are unburdened, because he has another mouth and two separate arms to commence with the hand signs and chants, right? So he's giving himself buffs with the chants. He's keeping himself protected with hand signs, right? It just that's what everything here is saying, right? His physical form may be warped, but he doesn't impede him in any way. Gives him some more lore or whatever, but the point with this is just that he goes from barely dodging Kashimo, like on the skin of his teeth, right, getting around this light speed attack, which is still impressive, but still, it's like, yeah, he's barely dodging, he gets punched right after. He goes from that to completely dominating Kashimo utterly, right? Kashimo rushes at him, he gets grabbed, right, slammed in the gut. Kashimo charges up a massive attack, and another EM wave. He blasts at Sukuna. Sukuna is able to make a hand sign, do a chant, and shoot his own world slash before the EM wave is able to even make contact with his body, just establishing once again that he's many, many times above light speed. Earlier in the video, I made a comment about how I couldn't establish Kashimo as having objective light speed, like running speed, just because we don't see like any like you know, straight up panels of him moving at that speed or anything like that. Although I did go on to later establish him as having light speed reactions, right, shown with him being able to turn his body and react to Sukuna. But I failed to note in the original recording how Sukuna is able to form hand signs, you know, make the chants in order to do the world slash, and he's able to fire the world slash before Kashimo's EM wave can reach him. But, right, you might assume that's just like a straight up speed blitz for Sukuna, which is how I presented it. But, you know, if you look at the paneling, you notice that Kashimo was able to maneuver his body away so that he didn't just die right there. Part of him still gets hit, but he is able to lose, I think it's like part of his arm, rather than getting completely killed by the attack. So, you know, if you've been paying attention to the scaling, right, Kashimo's using another super charged up EM wave, which is already many times beyond light speed. Sukuna is able to counter with his own attack, which literally blitzes the EM wave, right? Sukuna is able to, you know, do the hand signs and then shoot the attack before Kashimo's EM wave even reaches him. And then Kashimo is able to subsequently dodge partially, right? He still gets hit, but he's able to maneuver his body partially out of the way so that he doesn't just straight up get cut in half right there. So that does concretely establish him as having light speed movements as well. So another point for Kashimo, and unfortunately Yuji has no such scaling. He has nothing of the sort at this point. Kashimo realizes, oh, this is what just killed Gojo. Oh my god, right? A slash that cuts the world. They yap some more. Sukuna uses his Kamotoke to, you know, send a shockwave at Kashimo, which Kashimo blocks. It doesn't really do anything. And then as Kashimo's kind of backing up from that blast of energy, Sukuna rushes behind him. Kashimo is able to react to this, which is kind of insane at this point, because we've already established that Sukuna is many times above light speed, which this is what I was saying earlier. Like, I don't, in this paneling, we don't get any direct, just like straight up scenes of Kashimo running at light speed. I mean, maybe the anime will give us some of those, but in terms of his attacks and in terms of his reactions, he is definitively above light speed, because that's what Sukuna is able to do, like I just described, right? Or like I just established, right? He's able to dodge a light speed attack. So the fact that Kashimo is able to react to a much stronger and faster version of Sukuna's movements means that he himself also has light speed reactions, light speed attacks, right? That's just what I've been saying. I don't know, and people like to disagree with what I'm saying, but it's just literally, I'm just repeating what's in the manga, right? So as we see, he turns around, and it's not even a matter of Kashimo's reaction, it's literally a matter of the fact that Sukuna has just a significantly better body, because Kashimo is able to turn around, but he gets his arms grabbed by Sukuna's 2 extra arms, and then with his other 2 extra arms, Sukuna is able to, you know, slam Kashimo in the stomach. He knocks him away, and then before Kashimo can do anything, he becomes the waffle one. Unfortunate. And this is what I was thinking in my head earlier, because earlier I gave the argument, I gave the slight leeway to the Yuji fans that maybe you could assume that this slash is a world slash, just like how these are world slashes, because just like they look similar, they're all like the thick white lines, pause, and they all have like the black outlines, right? Like you could assume they're the same just because of how they visually look, but there's nothing in Modulo to state that Yuji has the ability to target the world as the like target of his curse technique. There's nothing to establish that, so I wouldn't just assume, oh, because they look similar, that means that they're the exact same technique. And but like I was just going to say, even if you do assume they're the same technique, Sukuna is significantly more skilled and versatile with the same technique as Yuji, right? I mean, as just demonstrated right here. What is this? This attack is ridiculous. Dude, how many layers did Sukuna do? In the anime we're gonna see, but like just based on like how like the Zenin clan fight went, like the manga did not display that one guy, Toji's brother, I forget his name, Jinchi or whatever. In the manga, he does like those big punch attacks and it destroys like a couple buildings. And in the anime, it levels like the entire mountain range. So when the anime animates this scene, dude, what is this gonna look like? Like, this is beyond the panel, as you can see. Like, the lines go beyond what the panel shows. Is this just gonna be like a 50 meter long, like tall wall of just like infinite potency death attacks that you just can't escape from? Like, where is that in Modulo? Where does Yuji demonstrate anything of that caliber? It's seriously unbelievable what Sukuna's doing here. And this is just like a curse technique attack. Have we talked about his domain? Have we talked about his reverse curse technique or his binding vow usage? Like, what does Modulo Yuji have? What does he have? And the real answer is we're never gonna know. We are never gonna know, because Gege is a fraud, okay? I was initially calling this guy a fraud when this series first got announced, because I was of the assumption that everybody that we knew was dead and that it was just going to focus on these new kids. But then we got slow confirmation that Yuji was still alive, and then we got all these cool scenes of Yuji doing cool stuff or whatever. But then it just ends. We get all this cool stuff with Maharaga, dude, for literally weeks and weeks upon months. I've been seeing Maharaga and Deborah edits. It's been insane. Everybody's been loving it. It's been a complete JJK revival. And then he just ends it. He's just like, alright guys, let's wrap it up. We're done. The most entertaining fight since Gojo versus Sukuna, unironically, right? Deborah versus Maharaga has been the most engaging fight online for the JJK community, and honestly probably since the anime, like the entire anime community. It's been the most engaging conflict since Gojo and Sukuna. And Gege's just like, alright, we're just done. Let's just move on. Another time skip, apparently. I don't know what's gonna happen. But it's like, alright, dude, yeah, that's fine. That's fine, guys. That's fine. It's like, dude, come on, man. I don't want to make this a 40-minute video. What time is it? How long have we gone? What, 25? Yeah, we can talk for a few more minutes. But yeah, basically, I don't know. I don't think I have to get super in-depth so far. All I have established, for one, is that Sukuna was destroying a guy who's significantly above light speed, undebatably. Whereas, I mean, we're never going to see how Yuji compares to Deborah, but as far as we can tell, Deborah is sub-light speed. Meanwhile, Sukuna and Kashimo are many times above light speed, right? We can see here sub-light speed as Deborah. And I guess I'll talk about this a little bit, right? If the manga will load. What's going on here? Uh-oh. Technical difficulties. What's going on? I guess that chapter didn't want to load. But yeah, we'll talk about this. So when Deborah uses his light speed mode, right, he has to like use his body to attack, and that causes him to shatter his leg completely, as we see in this panel. It's all fucked up and nasty. I got into a slight argument about this because in an Instagram comment a few weeks ago, but it was about how when Deborah moves at light speed, it causes all of this destruction. And the reasoning for that is, as it states, right? The closer he gets to the speed of light, the more air behaves like a solid than a fluid. So basically, like, Deborah's like just slamming into like every single air particle at massive speeds, causing all this damage, all this friction, which is why his leg gets destroyed when he kicks with it. That's also why this massive explosion ensues. But what people seem to not realize is when Kashimo activates this light speed technique, it specifically states that it reconstructs his flesh in order to manifest phenomena. So he literally gets a body like specifically attuned to be able to withstand and produce these light speed phenomena, which is why we don't ever see massive AoE destruction, which is why we don't ever see his body get destroyed while attacking at these speeds. It's because he doesn't have a normal flesh and blood body like Deborah does, right? When Deborah attacks, right, as it states, it behaves like a solid rather than a fluid. So he just destroys a lot of shit around him and destroys his physical body. But Kashimo specifically has a body attuned to not succumb to that, right? Just another example of how people seemingly just failed to remember or realize what was actually going on in the initial series, right? They just they just see the new chapters and they're like, oh wow, oh my god, it's so hype, oh my god, it's so crazy, everything's better than it was before, all these guys shit on all of JJK, but it's like they don't shit on all of JJK. Like, a lot of JJK clears these guys, right? Like, Deborah is not impressive. Deborah is a low tier, like, Deborah is, honest to god, maybe not even top 6 in JJK. There's unironically like 5 or 6 people that would slime the fuck out of Deborah easily, right? Maharaga's no exception. The only one that's in contention is where is he? Is Yuji. The only one in contention is Yuji, and that's specifically because of the stocks that he obtained at the end of JJK. He has no stocks in Modulo. He has nothing impressive in Modulo. There's literally nothing. The building explosion, like, it was cool when we first saw him, like, a couple months ago when the chapters were first coming out, because it was literally the first time we had seen Yuji in this series. So it's like, oh, a big spectacle. Oh my god, he blew up a bunch of windows in a building. Like, wow, that was cool. But this right here is the biggest thing. And also, I guess I haven't shown the Mahito fight, but who cares about Mahito? I guess I'll just flash forward to that. I'll show the Mahito fight very quickly. So Mahito comes back, and Yuji just kills him before he can activate his domain, right? That's what happens here. I gotta refresh because the paneling is not showing. Yep, so as we can see, right, Mahito's back. And I guess I'll state this as well, because Mahito is slightly buffed here. I won't say slightly, he's pretty decently buffed here. Where's the statement? I'm looking for it. I can't really see it. Wait. Oh. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Okay, Jesus. So basically, he's just saying that this entire place, they're fighting in, like, the pathway between souls. That's where Yuji and Mahito are fighting. And because of the entire environment basically being the same as soul residue or soul matter, it basically gives Mahito a really big advantage or whatever. I assume it's similar to the effect of where, like, when Todo was able to swap with all the fragments of Yuta's domain at the end of JJK, right? Where all, like, those domain fragments were around. Like, the environment is probably just giving him the advantage. I don't think it's necessarily giving him a physical stat buff or like an energy buff. I think it's just allowing him to utilize his curse technique better, right? That's why he's able to just like manifest these things, because he's not even utilizing his like transfigured humans or anything. He's literally just manipulating the environment here, which I think that's what he's referencing when he's saying that the entire place is built from the same matter identical to souls, right? It's just saying that he can basically use the entire realm as his domain, not necessarily saying that he's stronger or weaker than he was before. But yeah, basically Yuji is just able to speed blitz him, right? As he activates the domain, as he says the words, he gets his tongue cut off and all of his shit destroyed, right? As we can see. But who cares? This is not that impressive. This is Mahito we're talking about. Like, yeah, maybe if this was back in 2022 when Shibuya was first airing, it's like, oh god, Mahito, he got one shot. But it's like, who cares at this point? This guy is nothing. This guy is nothing. All the Culling Games characters, like Yuta, Ryu, I forget her name, but the girl who can use sky manipulation, they would all destroy Mahito. And we saw what happened when this form of Sukuna walked up on Ryu. He split him in half. No difficulty. We saw what happened when Yuta ran up on, half-dead Sukuna with Yuji. We saw what happened, bro. Yuta got cut in half, right? Yuji got bodied. Like, this tier of character doesn't matter. It's completely nonsensical. It doesn't, which is obviously why he gets destroyed. That's the whole point, is that this level of character is nothing at this point. Which is like, okay, I guess that might be a little bit something that you could say for Yuji. Like, oh, he's able to really easily destroy a Mahito level fighter. But it's like, where does that put him? What does that mean for him, right? Does that mean he's light speed? Does that get him to light speed? Does that mean that he has something more potent than Hollow Purple? Does that mean that he can get through Infinity? Does that mean that he can hit harder than the World Slash? Does that mean that he can dodge Kashima's EM Wave? Does that mean any of those things? Like, no, it doesn't. And that's my point, I guess, with all this talking, is that everything here, it's all glamorous, it's all cool, it's all eye candy for sure, but there's nothing concrete. Nothing here truly matters for any meaningful discussion about the top tiers in JJK, which is unfortunate, because everybody in the JJK community seems to have their mind settled on the matter. They seem to just assume that this guy right here, they just assume that, you know, Dismantle Yuji is just beyond anything we've seen in the series, but it's just not. There's just no reason to assume so. Other than if you just say, wow, look at the big explosion, whoa, but it's like, how big was this explosion? Right? How big was the explosion that killed Gojo? Oh wait, there wasn't one. Oh. Okay. So it seems like at the top of the tippy top of the verse, it seems like explosions don't really matter. And when you look at the context, right? They started the massive exodus because they're afraid of Deborah. The entire reason that Yuji even does a big explosion here is because he's trying to wipe out a massive area of cursed spirits, right? In this instance, Sukuna's just using an ultra-potent technique to kill Gojo. He has no reason to try and destroy a massive area, right? I see people just look at this explosion and they're like, wow, like Gojo could never do that, Sukuna could never do that. It's like, why? What makes you assume that? They were never given a reason in the series to ever make an explosion this big. What purpose would that serve them? When was there ever an instance or a context in JJK where Sukuna or Gojo needed to make a massive explosion? Because the reason why Yuji does it is because there's a massive exodus of cursed spirits, right? Which is, he needs to get rid of those. When was there ever a context where Gojo or Sukuna had to do that? There wasn't, right? Another reason why this scene means nothing. Like, I don't know, bro. That's about all I really have to say on this matter. I mean, Yuji, like I said in the title of this, like I've said all throughout this video, Yuji is the ultimate potential man. He has nothing concrete in Modulo. He's just this shady individual who may or may not be strong enough to tangle with Sukuna and Gojo, right? But, I don't know. And hey, you know, hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully, dude, I don't know how they're going to do this, but maybe Chapter 24 Modulo comes out and Yuji's just fighting somebody. I don't know. Maybe something happens. I don't know. But the way that this is going right now, it really doesn't seem like Yuji's going to fight anybody. You know, it really seems like they're just going to wrap things up. So I guess I'll do the same. It was Sauceman K. You know, I'm your host, Sauceman K. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Yeah, man, I'm disappointed. I was really hoping for Yuji to really demonstrate something insane, but unfortunately, he is literally hype moments and aura, ultimate potential man. You know, Megami has been dethroned. It's now just Yuji. He's the ultimate potential man now. So yeah. Alright. What's he saying? That should do it? Yeah, that should do it. I'll see you guys later. It was Sauceman K. Peace out.